So every year around the Oscars, I watch like a ton of movies just so when Oscars nights come and we do our little drunk commentary. I shouldn't say drunk commentary. It's me and Matt are the only ones being that irresponsible. Um, when we do that, I like to just kind of catch up that week. Maybe sometimes a few weeks. This year I'm really cutting it close. But I've watched a bunch of stuff, and I'm not just watching the nominations because fuck that. They pick horrible movies every year. They pick a lot of great movies too. In fact, my favorite movie of the year has been nominated for a ton of awards. And I actually think in some categories they chose really well this year. This is far from their worst year. Um, but at the same time, yeah, they pick bullshit, and then there's plenty of good stuff that gets missed, and that's just the way it's gonna work. And even if like I didn't agree, I'm sure there'd be someone who even if I didn't feel that way, like if they were picking a bunch of great movies, I'm sure there'd be someone who disagreed and say no, they picked up a bunch of shit. So I get it's all subjective, but come on, most people complain about what the Academy picks. But I'm gonna talk about some movies, some nominated, some not, some that I think should have been nominated, some that I gave a chance. I'm like, yeah, I guess it makes sense that wasn't nominated. Although probably not in this one. There's like one that didn't get nominated where I understand that decision. Despite some of the Twitter rage, can you imagine that? Twitter being angry about something? So first stuff, we'll actually talk about that movie right now, The Bad Guys. I liked this movie. I liked how stylized it was. I liked the characters a lot. People got angry that it wasn't nominated for Best Animated Picture. It definitely deserves to be there more than something like The Sea Beast, but for the most part, I think that they chose their animated picks really well. And I like The Bad Guys a lot, but I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's Best Animated Picture worthy. I mean, maybe it would be in a year with less good stuff, but I mean, this year had Pinocchio, Marcel, Puss in Boots. Like, yeah, I think it was a great year for animated films, and I think their selection was decent. So I've got no problem with this not being nominated. I like the movie. I'd recommend the movie. At the end of the day, it's just kind of a fun movie, and yeah, sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need, but it doesn't necessarily means it deserves to be like declared the best animated film of the year. So, but yeah, there's a lot to like about this one. Again, just mainly character wise, like the story is super predictable. It's like a character will be introduced and you know exactly like every single reveal of this character. You can feel the beats before they happen. It's very easy to tell where it's going. I mentioned the sea beast, so I'll talk about that now. It's not bad, and I think actually there's some really nice shots in it. Visually, there's some really nice moments. Both with just like pretty looking shots. Like there's a lot of under the ocean shots that look nice, but there's also some like really graphic shots that I enjoyed a lot. Um, yeah, I like the movie. Message was so on the nose, but it's okay. I guess that's okay because I think it is like a kids movie. But it was fine. It was fun. I liked the some of the character designs. I liked the some of the visuals. It's not something I'll ever watch again. I don't know why it's nominated. I haven't even seen Wendell and Wild yet. That one's not nominated, but just like stylistically, that one's a lot more interesting. I'll have to watch it though, because maybe the story will suck or something, and I'll be like, nah, Sea Beast. Bad Guys definitely deserve to be on there more than the Sea Beast. But the Sea Beast is definitely the Sea Beast is definitely the weakest link of all of the Best Animated Picture nominees. Speaking of which, let's talk about those real quick. We already talked about Turning Red and Puss in Boots in a separate video. Pinocchio, really, really liked it. I don't think it's perfect, but it's definitely the best Pinocchio movie I've ever seen. Because Pinocchio might just not be that good of a story, to be honest. I think it's a neat concept. Like, oh, just little wooden puppet boy wants to be a real boy, but he has to learn to behave himself first. If he lies, his nose grows. Like, those are all creative ideas. It's a classic. It's always been a classic story, and I guess that's why there's some fun ideas in there. But I think in terms of like structuring a story, every single adaptation I've ever seen of that movie has been a little all over the place, and this one definitely feels the most focused, which I appreciate. It's not like a movie can't be all over the place and still enjoyable, but I don't know. It's like I think there needs to be some sort of focus in there. And this one had that. And this one had better interpretations of the characters, I feel, and this one had really good voice acting. And also, this one just made Pinocchio a little shit, and I loved that. Um, because he actually does behave really poorly in here. But at the same time, it's not in a way where he's unlikable. He is just a kid. Um, and someone's calling me. Why? And now I've got to edit the two fucking clips together because I get so paranoid when someone fucking calls me that it might be important. Shouldn't have picked it up. They called me Terry again. Fuck you. Anyways, what was I talking about? Yeah, I really enjoyed how much of a little shit they made Pinocchio because again, it's kind of like one, he is new to this world, so everything's making him like overly excited. So it's a little annoying, but it's also understandable. It's very realistic to how a kid would act to this sort of thing. And yeah, he is a little shit because he hasn't learned anything yet. It all felt very natural. Best depiction of Pinocchio I've ever seen in a movie. Best depiction of Geppetto I've ever seen in a movie. Really fucking good job of Geppetto. I think that maybe their bond could have been built up a little better. The thing is, the movie takes its time on it. It spends time on it. Um, but I don't know. It almost feels like they could have like. I like where they take it. I like what the end goal is, but I almost feel like they. I never really hit that scene where I was convinced that the two really cared about each other that much. Like Pinocchio clearly cares about him because he's just like that's what he was created for. That's his purpose. So just inherently, just automatically, he already loves Geppetto as much as he possibly could. Where Geppetto kind of has to get used to this, which is understandable. It's like someone replacing his son. That's not really an easy thing to accept right off the bat. And there's even kind of a message at the end how he's not a replacement for his son, but just someone new to be in his life. And I like all of that a lot. I don't know. I feel like maybe, maybe there's a scene or two missing with these two. I don't know. I think their bond could have been stronger by the end of the movie. I still liked it a lot. I still loved it. Like visually, I think it's one of the best looking stop motion animated movies ever made. I love the score. The only thing about it I really didn't like, and I don't hate it, is I wasn't into the songs. I was into the instrumentals for the songs, but I wasn't all that into the vocals and I wasn't all that into the lyrics. I felt like they were either too simple or just didn't sound very good. Like I think I've heard people call out auto-tune in this movie and I agree, I heard that. But I do love the instrumental music in this movie. I wish the songs could have just been a little tighter because I do like musicals, but there's not a single song that's really all that memorable to me in this one. It just kind of came and went. Like the Bob's Burgers movie had more memorable songs than this one, in my opinion. And that was a movie with like four songs in it. Finally, I guess I'll just throw Marcel in. This will be the animated picture discussion, I guess. Marcel, the Shelf Shoes On was one of the sweetest fucking movies I've ever seen. I loved it. I loved Marcel as a character. I loved the stop motion in it. I loved like the blend of that with like live action footage. I loved the style it went for. It was just such a sweet movie. It didn't shy away from talking about some more serious topics or showing like some of the harsher realities of life, but it did it all in like a very comforting way. Like even when they are talking about something a little bit more serious in this movie, it's still done in a very comforting way. It's just such a I guess that's the best way to describe it. It is such a comfort movie. It is such a sweet movie. Marcel is like one of the most innocent things I've ever seen in a movie before. Jenny Slate absolutely knocked it out of the park with that performance. She's a really good voice actor. That's like something that she's a really great actress. And she could kind of come off as like, oh, you hire her. It's like a celebrity voice actor rather than an actual voice actor. No, I think she might actually be able to do both. Like it's not like a Chris Pratt as Mario situation. I think she can do. I think she can do like live action acting and voice acting like both really well because she completely sold me on this thing every single time. I kept forgetting it was her doing the voice, even though I knew it was her going in. Um, yeah, fantastic. I like this one a lot. It's probably my second favorite animated movie of the year, with Puss in Boots being my favorite. Although Pinocchio and Marcel are really close because Pinocchio is like visually is a more of a spectacle. I really appreciate a lot about that movie. I think I like Marcel more than Pinocchio though. All right, that's enough for this one.